Thank you very much. Let me first of all recognize our friend, the Honorable Parliamentary Secretary for International Development of the Government of Canada, and her colleagues from the office and of course from the High Commission office in Barbados. My colleague ministers and of course the media present and the viewers and listeners of this short but very important press conference. Canada has always been our friend. Even before we became an independent state, Canada invested heavily in our economy and on our social advancements, whether it was in water resource management and also in education. There were several schools built by the government of Canada in the 60s, and there were a second set of schools that were built in the 70s. The Castle Bruce Primary School, the Lapland Primary School, the Vacas Primary School, and they also built the Portsmouth Secondary School. Myself personally, I attended the Vacas Primary School, and I also attended the Portsmouth Secondary School. So I benefited directly from the investments of Canada. And of course, we cannot speak about water resource management and development in Dominica and not mention Canada. Canada has always been at the center of our water resource management, whether it was in the days of the Central Water Authority or currently DOASCO. And they have been able to transfer a number of their own technology and practices to us in our efforts to bring water, potable water, to our citizens. But importantly too, we have been able to rely on Canada being there for us and with us in difficult times. A friend is not necessarily somebody who is there with you in good times, but really who is there with you in difficult times. And I want to say to our citizens, as I've said to you before, that one of the first heads of government who telephoned me after Hurricane Maria was the Prime Minister of Canada to say to us very clearly that Canada is with us and will continue with us in this very difficult journey. And I will say to you that his words have remained true and his words have remained sincere. And we are seeing this manifested in a number of areas. First of all, Canada has been very helpful in the drafting of the legislation for the creation of the Creed. And so they provided the technical assistance to draft this legislation, which we hope to take to Parliament very soon for Parliament consideration. But it is not only the provision of the technical assistance, they have been with us every step of the way in assisting us in putting this concept together, because it is something that is new to the world in large measure, new to the Caribbean in large measure, new to ourselves as Dominicans, and they've been able to bring to bear their own knowledge and experience and commitment and solidarity to these efforts. They have also committed to the construction of 5 primary schools and of course the Grand Bay Secondary School, which interestingly was built by the Canadians in the 60s. They will now be reconstructing this primary school to provide better facilities and more conducive facilities for the children in the Grand Bay catchment area. And for this we are very grateful to the Canadian government. We have been advised that we will see work started, God's willing, sometime towards the middle of 2019, which is good news for the students. And in the design of these new schools, the Canadian and the World Bank authorities have taken on board the express position of the government of Dominica to build back and to build with greater resilience. So the schools will be designed taking the resilience concept into consideration and applying the technology to the architectural and engineering designs so that our schools can withstand these weather events. I also want to say to our friend here, the Parliamentary Secretary, that Canada can rely on Dominica being there with it on its national ambitions. We are members of the United Nations together. We are also members of the OAS together. And very critically too, we are of the same view in respect to climate change. and the causes of climate change and what needs to be done to mitigate against climate change, and more importantly, to allow us to be able to withstand the ravages of the impact of the weather systems. Because we in the Caribbean, we are at the short end of the stick when it comes to the implications and impacts of climate change. And what I've said to our friends from Canada, because Canada has had a long history and tradition, it is almost part of the DNA, respect for the environment, and a profound sense of social conscience. We believe that Canada can play a very important role in leading the charge of matters relating to climate change globally, especially for countries like ours, because of the shared experience, the shared relationship, and the shared history. But I believe Canada can play a very critical role in advancing our cause in the small island states, and we hope that Canada will continue to play that part. But certainly, as I said to my friend privately, I would like to see Canada be the messiah where climate change is concerned, and those of us in the Caribbean can be disciples in that regard. Because Canada also, because of its disposition and its view of world matters, approach things differently to most. Canada does not adopt a high-handed or big stick approach. I believe that they are respectful to people and to nations, and we in the Caribbean have always viewed Canada as a country that should play even a bigger role in political leadership and political guidance in the Caribbean, certainly, and we're prepared to endorse that as a country in Dominica. I want to say, my friend, to express our thanks and gratitude to the Prime Minister of Canada. We applaud his leadership and his governance of Canada, and we look forward to working with him, as I said, on international matters. And Canada was also, for the first time, allowed CARICOM to be present at the G7 summit, where the outgoing chairman and the incoming chairman of CARICOM were invited on behalf of CARICOM to express to the leadership of the world our own concerns, where issues of financing is concerned, where issues of debt is concerned, where issues of graduation to middle-income countries and the implications of those matters to us, and what we believe they could do, what decisions we believe they could take to assist us in addressing those challenges. And we are very grateful for this. Obviously, this is not a solution or conclusion rather, but we believe it is a step in the right direction, where the engagement could be face-to-face with the decision makers and those who were impacted by those decisions. So we really want to publicly again express our gratitude to Canada for inviting CARICOM to be present and to put this case forward. And of course, we in Dominica, we have several of our citizens in Canada. Canada has been the home for many decades. They have been welcomed and treated fairly. Many of us have benefited from that experience, and we want to also express our gratitude to the Canadian people for allowing Canada to be the home for so many Caribbean people, thousands of Caribbean people who have made a decent living in Canada. But we're very grateful for your presence. Your presence here in Dominica is a clear manifestation of the continued interest of the government of Canada, and also the Prime Minister of Canada, by allowing the Parliament Secretary to be here to engage us, and to not only engage us on diplomatic issues, but on practical things. And your visit to Granby, to the primary school, to see for yourself the school that will be built by the Canadian government. You'll be also going to the Carnago territory, where we'll be dealing with issues relating to indigenous people and women empowerment and so forth. These are practical issues that impact the lives of all of our citizens. So I want to say to you, we're very, very elated to be here with you and to express our gratitude to the government of Canada. And I've always said to our citizens, no country owes us anything. The Canadian government is not obligated to give us this assistance. They are giving us this assistance because they see that they have a role to play in advancing the economies and the social welfare of other nations. And for this we're very grateful. So whether it is $1 or $9.25 million for the primary schools, we are grateful for it. And I'm sure that with this $9.25 million plus the additional sum, because it is really a commitment of $100 million over a period of time to the Caribbean, and these are countries affected by the hurricanes. You could have a number of things you could spend the money on in Canada, but you have recognized your greater responsibility, not only to yourselves, but to the rest of the world in the furtherance of peace and a better way of life for citizens globally, and we're very grateful for this. So please convey to your Prime Minister, the government, and people of Canada our heartfelt gratitude and thanks, and we look forward to these projects being implemented to the benefit of all of our citizens. And I will say finally that in respect to climate change, while we have had several conferences and summits on what causes climate change, I'm hoping that the next conferences could speak to the solutions and to addressing the mechanism, the response mechanism towards the effects of climate change. And I'm hoping that Canada will assist us in that, in finding a more nimble, a more efficient, a more robust mechanism to addressing the responses to climate change. Because where the world is now, especially a country like Dominica, what we need now are responses. And I have said to the global leaders that we have to be careful if we prolong the discussion on the causes of climate change and not speak to the response mechanism, that we will get a situation where there will be a movement towards the abandonment of our commitment by global leaders and citizens. Because to build greater resilience and to build back better is, one, more costly, two, might be longer in terms of implementation, and there'll always be the temptation by politicians to short-circuit the process. And in our view, for example, in building a resilient nation, the process will be longer. The process will be costlier. And this is why I've said to our citizens that we must not place unnecessary political pressure to cause the government to take a shortcut or a short-circuit the process, because it will not be to our long-term benefit. I believe that the country, our country, Dominica, must stick to its desired vision and mission to create the world's first climate resilient nation, because for future generations this would be beneficial. For us, we are putting the cornerstone and possibly the foundation, but it is important for us to place this cornerstone and to put this foundation. And the truth is, we have friends like Canada who have been with us from day one, assisting us in putting the framework together, putting the policy framework together, and equally importantly, are assisting us with resources, financial resources, to assist us in implementing certain blocks of this framework. So we're not alone in the process. There are friends that are genuinely with us. There are friends that are with us and assisting us without asking anything in return. Canada is not here to ask us for anything. They're here to offer us assistance, to give us the support in a tangible, practical, and sincere manner. And it is left for us as citizens of Dominica to be united around this vision and to work tirelessly to achieving it for the welfare and well-being of future generations. I want to thank Canada profusely and profoundly for your generosity, and we look forward to the commencement of this project to the benefit of so many of our aspiring children in our country. Thank you very much. Thank you.